started on a Wednesday, but not just any Wednesday, the kind of day where nothing feels quite right. The air was heavy like the silence before a confession. I came home early, not because I had planned to, but because the office Wi-Fi went down and no one could function without it. Traffic was unusually light, like the universe wanted me home. Too soon. I unlocked the door and noticed something small but wrong. The chain lock was off. She always locked the chain even when she was inside, especially when she was inside. At first, I thought maybe she just forgot, or maybe Shed stepped out and hadn't come back yet. But then I heard it. Not voices, not music, breathing, heavy, low, measured. I walked in slow, not creeping exactly, just careful. Something inside me didn't want to make a sound. Maybe part of me already knew. There was a scent I didn't recognize in the hallway. Not perfume, something darker. Cologne maybe, but not mine. Something chemical and smooth like luxury pressed into a bottle. I passed the kitchen. There was a coffee cup on the counter. Black ceramic. No one in this house drinks black coffee but me. Except this one still had heat rising from it. Still, no voices. The living room looked normal. Except the blanket from the couch was on the floor and the TV was paused on a screen I didn't recognize, some dumb reality show we never watched. It was like someone had scrambled the last few minutes before leaving. But no one had left. Then I heard the thump. Upstairs. Like something dropped and got caught. Something or someone trying to be quiet. I moved faster than I thought I would. I skipped 2 stairs at a time. The second door on the left was closed. Not locked, just closed. We never closed that door. It was her office. She worked from there sometimes. But now there were shadows moving inside. I didn't knock. I pushed the door open and what I saw wasn't what you're thinking. No one was naked. No one was caught mid-act. That almost made it worse. She was standing near the window, holding her phone, fully dressed, but her face, the way her face froze when she saw me, was the kind of freeze you can't fake. Like a puppet whose strings were suddenly cut. There was a guy too, sitting in her desk chair like he belonged there, also dressed. But he wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at her. She looked at me. Then she spoke the single worst sentence I've ever heard in my life. He's just helping me with something. Work stuff. I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just came out. The kind of laugh you give when your heart starts to break so fast it doesn't hurt yet. Work stuff, I said, walking in, not backing down. In your office? With the door closed? While you both look like you're waiting for a judge to walk in. She stepped toward me, reaching out like she could actually explain this with a straight face. Eric, don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You are. You're doing it right now. I turned to the guy. I didn't recognize him, but I'd seen that face. At one of her work parties. He was a low-level manager or something. She once told me he smelled like a perfume ad. Guess that was a preview. Do you have a name, or should I just call you Work Stuff from now on? He stood up but didn't say anything. No apology. No guilt. Just cowardice. She snapped. Can you calm down, please? You're being dramatic. I blinked. That word. Dramatic. That's the word you use when you're caught and you know it and you want the other person to stop reacting like a human being. That's the word abusers use to reframe the crime. I turned back to her. Is this the first time? Her eyes dropped. I swear to God, they dropped for half a second and then snapped right back like she could rewind her expression. There's nothing going on, she said. And even if there was, maybe it wouldn't be such a surprise if you actually paid attention once in a while. That was her strategy. Blame me. Flip the script. Make me the inattentive husband. The emotionally unavailable one. Classic. Except I had paid attention. I'd noticed the late nights, the sudden silence when I entered a room, the password change on her laptop. I just didn't want to believe what those signs meant. Until now. I walked out of the room without another word. Not because I was finished, but because something in me had just begun. I went downstairs and stood in the kitchen staring at the coffee cup. Steam still rising. Still hot. Still fresh. The door didn't open behind me. No footsteps. She didn't follow. Not that day. What happened next made this confrontation look like a polite misunderstanding. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. She didn't come downstairs. Never followed me. I stayed in the kitchen for hours, thinking she'd appear eventually, try to smooth it over, throw some warped version of the truth at me to soften the edges. But the only thing that came down was silence, and it stretched out so long it started to feel alive. I sat on the bar stool with the coffee cup still in front of me, untouched. I wasn't thinking straight. My hands were on the counter, then in my hair, then gripping the edge like the granite could anchor me to a reality I didn't want to be part of anymore. By 3 a.m. I got in the car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I wasn't even dressed properly, just a hoodie and whatever jeans I had on when I came home. No wallet. No phone charger. Just the unbearable urge to not be under the same roof as her. I ended up in a parking lot outside a diner that didn't open for another 2 hours. I sat there in the driver's seat and tried to piece together how long this had been going on. Who knew? Who else knew? I thought about the time she came home with wine-stained lips and said she'd had a crazy girls' night but didn't remember what bar they went to. I thought about the business trips that started popping up like mushrooms after a storm. I thought about how, just last month, she got a hotel for a client dinner when the office was only 20 minutes away. Said she was too tired to drive. Now I realized too tired to drive but not too tired to entertain. I couldn't stop replaying the look on her face when I walked in. Not fear. Not guilt. Not even shock. Just calculation. Like she was already writing her version of the story in real time. I went back home around 6:30, half expecting her to be gone. She wasn't. She was in the kitchen, her back to me, making eggs like nothing had happened. Like we were still married. Like there hadn't been a stranger in our home 12 hours ago with cologne and nerve. Morning, she said, like she wasn't the villain in someone else's horror story. I didn't respond. Just walked past her, straight to the guest bedroom and locked the door. At noon, I got a message on my phone. Not a call. A message. We should talk tonight. I think we both said and saw things that need perspective. Perspective. Like she was offering a TED Talk on betrayal. I didn't reply. I needed clarity and I wasn't going to get it from her mouth. I needed data. So I started digging. I logged into the shared cloud account we used for syncing calendars. She never changed her sync settings. She always assumed I didn't care about dates or planning. That ignorance saved me. I opened the synced calendar. There were events labeled meetings scattered over the past 6 months. Not unusual. But they always started at 6 p.m. and ended at 8:30. Always in a different part of the city. Always at places with names like Vina or Lutrellis, spots that didn't sound like work. I cross-checked some of the times with our home security camera history. She turned off the indoor camera notifications on days she had those meetings. Disabled the alerts but not the camera itself. So I watched. And what I saw changed everything. Same guy. Same swagger. Same smirk as he entered our house when I wasn't home. Sometimes they went upstairs. Sometimes they stayed in the living room with drinks. Once she gave him a wrapped gift. I paused it there. A small box. A bow. She kissed his cheek. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a relationship. In my house. On my couch. With the woman I thought I was building a life with. When I finally confronted her that night, it wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. I showed her the footage on my phone. No commentary. No accusations. Just cold, hard video. She watched 10 seconds, then turned away. Her words? Oh. So you're going to dig through everything now? That's not healthy. That sentence rewired something in my brain. Because in that moment, I realized she didn't care that she'd done it. She only cared that I found out. That I had proof. That the lie had an expiration date and I just punched the clock. I didn't yell. I just said, you brought another man into this house. Into our space. And you want to talk about what's healthy? She shrugged. Well, you weren't exactly giving me what I needed. Then she walked past me like the conversation was over. Like it wasn't the wreckage of an entire marriage collapsing behind her heels. And that's when something inside me went cold. Not broken. Not shattered. Cold. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. I wasn't going to be the wounded, confused husband she could manipulate anymore. She wanted war? Fine. Let her see what happens when a man builds quietly and strikes without warning. The morning after her shrug of a confession, something changed in the house. Not physically, no slammed doors or broken dishes, but atmospherically. The air turned stale, like a storm had come and gone, leaving behind stillness so unnatural it made you check if you were dreaming. She acted like nothing had happened. Brushed her hair in the mirror while humming, made herself an oat milk smoothie like I hadn't shown her a video of her affair 12 hours ago. She even asked if I'd be okay to feed the dog because she had a big presentation. Like Betrayal was a paper cut we could tape up and ignore. I nodded. Said nothing. I wasn't going to raise my voice anymore. That's what she expected. That's what would make her feel in control if I lost mine. Instead, I started playing a different game. I wasn't going to leave. Not yet. Not before I learned everything. Every lie. Every time. Every person who covered for her. So I stayed. That day I told my manager I'd be working remotely for the next few weeks. Claimed I needed to be home for personal matters. No one asked questions. Tech companies love buzzwords like mental health. I used it. And then I got to work, not for them, for me. I bought a new burner phone, paid in cash. Created a fake profile on a generic dating app. Not to catfish her. This wasn't petty. This was bait. I knew from those calendar entries she liked one spot in particular. Blue trellis. It showed up 5 times. I set my location near there, changed my age to match the guy from the videos, added just enough curated traits, marketing, hiking, wine, that she'd be intrigued if she was out there. I didn't have to wait long. Day 3, a match. Her profile picture was from a charity gala we went to together 2 years ago. She cropped me out, called herself Lena, said she was just browsing and discreet. I stared at that screen so long, my vision blurred. I didn't message her. Not yet. Just watched how she moved. Her app activity. Online at 11:12 p.m. Thursday night, when she claimed she was too tired to talk and went to bed early. She was out there, playing a whole different life while still sharing a roof with me. But she didn't know I'd stopped sleeping. I listened at night. Heard her on the phone at 2 a.m., whispering. And one night I recorded it. She was laughing soft, girlish, a tone I hadn't heard from her in a year. Then this, he's suspicious, but he doesn't know anything. And even if he finds out, what's he gonna do? Cry in the guest room? That audio clip broke something inside me I didn't even know was still whole. Because it wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was mockery. Contempt. I sent the clip to my burner phone along with screenshots of her fake profile. I organized everything into folders, dates, times, photos, audio. A digital autopsy of our marriage. And then I called the one person I hadn't wanted to involve. Her sister, Natalie. They weren't close, some rift about money, I think, but Natalie always liked me. She once told me, "You're the only sane one in her life." I never thought that would matter. I called her, voice steady. Told her I needed to talk. Alone. No context. We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over. I showed her everything. She sat through the entire thing without a word. When I finished, she looked me in the eyes and said the last thing I expected. "She's done this before." My blood chilled. What? Natalie nodded slowly. In college. In her first engagement. With a coworker back when she lived in Denver. She just knows how to hide it better now. I asked her why she never told me. She looked sad. Because I thought you were the one who changed her. I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because hope, in retrospect, always looks like a joke. Natalie leaned forward. You need to burn her life down. Slowly. Let her feel it. I was already on my way. But the next move? That would be public. And it would be irreversible. I didn't go nuclear right away. No, that would have been too easy and far too merciful. Instead, I wanted precision. I wanted her to feel it unfold, inch by inch. Like a puzzle falling apart, one familiar piece at a time. The next phase required control. I started with her reputation, quietly, strategically. I knew she lived for appearances, for that curated image of herself she presented to her colleagues and LinkedIn followers and networking friends. Her world was held together by 2 things, perception and performance. So I hit her at the core. I began forwarding anonymous tips to her company's HR. Nothing too obvious, nothing reckless. Just enough to raise flags. I used real things, her calling in sick for trips to hotels, her loud phone calls to the guy she claimed was just helping with work. I let them investigate. Let them connect the dots themselves. I knew how corporate circles worked. Whispers spread like wildfire when your mask slips. 2 days later, she came home furious. She threw her keys on the table and stormed past me, not even acknowledging I was there. Something happened at work? I asked, calm as a lake. She spun around. Why? You know something? I stared her down, slowly sipping my coffee. I know everything, remember? She squinted like she could see something new behind my face. She couldn't. She had no idea how far this had already gone. I planted small truths in conversations with mutual friends. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of offhand comments that linger. Yeah, she's been working late a lot. It's strange, considering how flexible her job is. Or, I guess she travels a lot for a role that's mostly remote, huh? People start connecting dots when you let silence fill the spaces between words. She started getting paranoid. Checking her phone more. Locking it. Asking if I'd talk to her coworkers. I said no. Always no. Which made her even more unsure of what I was doing. Then came the dinner. Her company was hosting a mid-quarter mixer at a rooftop restaurant downtown. She insisted I go with her to show everything was fine. A PR move. Image rehab. I said sure. Wore my best suit. Even smiled as I helped her zip up her red dress. The same one she wore the first time I told her I loved her. She had no idea I remembered that. She probably never did. We arrived. The music was soft, the lighting low, and her coworkers. Oh, they were tense. Conversations stopped when we approached. Eyes darted. Lips twitched. Something had shifted. And then he showed up. The guy from the office. From her desk chair. From her locked door. He walked in late, alone, clearly not expecting to see me. When our eyes met, I smiled. He didn't smile back. She froze for just a second, then faked a laugh and waved at him like this was a sitcom and I was just her idiot husband who didn't know the plotline. I walked straight over, held out my hand. He shook it, reluctantly. Good to finally meet you, I said. His eyes flicked to hers. She was mouthing something behind me. Panic was setting in. I leaned in and said low enough for only him to hear, if you think she won't burn your life to the ground to save herself, you haven't been paying attention. Then I walked away and left him standing there with his cocktail and his conscience. The rest of the night, I watched her crumble behind her mask. The tight smiles. The twitch in her left eye she gets when she's spiraling. She barely touched her drink. Checked her phone every 3 minutes. When we got home, she didn't say a word. She just disappeared into the bedroom and locked the door behind her. I let her have the last word that night. She'd need her voice tomorrow because that's when I'd make the first public move. Her world wasn't going to end with a bang. It was going to drown in echoes. And the echoes would start at sunrise. By sunrise, I was already in motion. I'd been collecting evidence for weeks, screenshots, timestamps, videos, even the cloud-synced messages she forgot were still backing up. But I wasn't going to send these to her boss, or her parents, or the guy's wife. Yes, I found out he was married too. No, I had a much better plan. This wasn't about justice anymore. This was about exposure. She lived online. Every filtered brunch photo, every caption about grind culture and manifesting success, every polished quote she posted was part of her self-made mythology. I didn't want to destroy her with the truth. I wanted her to destroy herself with it. I created a simple anonymous blog. Nothing fancy. Just black and white text, clean layout, no ads, no pop-ups. Titled it, The Other Side of Her, a case study in double lives. Then I began posting. Not names. Not locations. Just stories. Entries about a woman who lied so casually it became a language. About a husband who found cologne on a coffee cup. About a dinner party where 2 men realized they were sharing the same future. About a voice recorder that caught whispers in the dark. Each post was timestamped, matched with just enough vague detail that she would know it was about her, but no one else could prove it. Not yet. Not without filling in the blanks themselves. By the 3rd post, the blog had traction. Someone on Reddit found it and shared it to a relationship thread. Comments poured in. Theories. Sympathy. People guessing what would happen next. Some thought it was fiction. Others thought it was a slow burn confession. A few even started guessing who the woman was, trying to connect dots through clues I left like breadcrumbs. She had no idea. Not yet. That morning, she came into the kitchen like she'd actually slept. Poured herself coffee. Said nothing. I didn't look at her. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the blog just for a second. Let the header show. I knew she was behind me. I knew her eyes flicked to the screen like a reflex. She said nothing, but I felt the air shift. A flicker of suspicion. She felt it. But she didn't ask. She never asked unless she already knew the answer and feared it. Later that day, she called her sister. I recorded it from the hallway. I think he's planning something, she whispered. He's being too calm. Natalie didn't comfort her. Instead, she said if you weren't such a disaster, maybe he wouldn't have to. That's when she started to unravel. She changed her phone password, stopped using the shared calendar, started taking long drives and not saying where. She even checked my laptop when I was in the shower, but I'd wiped my browser history and encrypted everything on the blog. She was chasing shadows. And then came the breaking point. Someone at her job, an assistant, maybe forwarded one of the blog entries to her boss, thinking it was just a juicy viral story. Her boss read it, put two and two together, cross-referenced the timeline with her sick days, her late meetings, her sudden disappearances. They called her in for a meeting. She didn't come home that night. The next morning, she walked in wearing the same clothes, eyes hollow, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. She didn't speak to me, just sat on the floor of the living room, legs folded, staring at the wall. Then finally, she broke the silence. "You're trying to ruin me." I sat across from her, calm. "No, I'm giving you the credit you've earned." She blinked. "Do you want me gone? I want you to know what it feels like to be out of control, to have your truth rewritten in real time." She stared, hollow. "I should have just told you." I shook my head. "You should have never started lying. But you did. And you liked it." She didn't deny it. And that silence told me she knew it was all slipping. That blog was still growing. People were sharing it, asking for more. My inbox was full of strangers confessing their own stories, telling me not to stop. I wasn't going to. This wasn't about her anymore. This was about taking back everything she tried to erase from me. Her unraveling became a performance, and I had front row seats. After the work meeting, whatever they confronted her with, she came back different. Not in the repentant, sorry for what I've done kind of way. No, she was sharp, on edge, cracking in places she tried to tape up with attitude. She started wearing thicker makeup, laughing louder on the phone, slamming cabinet doors like punctuation. And then she flipped the script. She started acting like I was the threat. I came home one afternoon, I'd been out collecting information about her coworker, the married one, and found 2 suitcases in the foyer. Her suitcases. She stood there with arms crossed, eyes puffy from what I guess were forced tears. "I'm going to my mom's for a while. You need space. And you need help." It was so perfectly rehearsed I almost applauded. I didn't argue. I just stepped aside and let her walk out, watching her heels echo down the driveway like a ticking clock. She wanted space? Fine. Now I had the house to myself. And I used it. There were things she kept hidden even in her arrogance. Like the locked drawer in her closet. She always kept the key on her charm bracelet, which stupidly she left behind. Inside the drawer, 3 journals, a flash drive, and an envelope labeled "in case of emergency." The flash drive was the first thing I opened. It was full of videos, self-shot clips of her in different hotel rooms talking to the camera like some twisted confessional. No names were said, just vague rants about feeling unseen and alive again and how her real self wasn't compatible with the life she had built. She even mocked me in one of them. Said I was like an emotional Labrador, always loyal, always clueless. I paused the video, sat there, breathing, swallowed the bile that rose up. Then I uploaded the clips, just 2 of them, onto a secure drive, encrypted it, and sent the link to a contact ID made through the blog. An investigative writer. Someone with a platform, someone discreet. Told him this was the tip of something bigger. Told him there was more, much more. He said he'd look into it. Next, the journals. They were handwritten accounts of the lies she told, everyone categorized. Work excuses, family lies, Eric adjustments. I kid you not. She had a section titled Emergency Alibis. Reading it felt like peeling the skin off a version of myself I didn't even know was bleeding. She had crafted entire evenings, even conversations she told people we had, in case someone ever questioned where she was. And I'd been there, nodding along, thinking we were fine. But the envelope, that's where it snapped. Inside was a copy of a lease. An apartment across town. Signed 2 months ago. Under her name and his. I didn't even blink. Instead, I printed it out. folded it neatly, and drove. I didn't go to her mom's. I went to his house. His wife answered the door. I didn't say much, just handed her the lease and one of the clips on a flash drive. Gave her my name. Told her I was the other husband in this mess. She didn't cry. She didn't slam the door. She just stood there frozen, her world quietly detonating in her hands. Then she whispered, "You're not the first one to come here." And just like that, the entire board flipped again. He'd done this before. He wasn't just cheating. He was a serial predator. And she, my wife, wasn't some confused victim of circumstance. She knew. They were a team. Of liars. Of manipulators. Of people who fed on the silence of others. And now they had two people on the outside who were done staying quiet. That night, I got a text from her. Just one word, "Why?" I didn't respond. I just posted the next chapter of the blog. The title? The lease agreement. It got 48,000 views in 3 hours. And that was before the wife sent me what she had. The wife's name was Lauren. And she wasn't just devastated, she was ready. After I handed her the lease and the flash drive, she asked me to give her some time. I didn't expect to hear back. I figured she'd go silent, maybe confront him privately, maybe not at all. But less than 48 hours later, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No greeting. Just, "If you're serious about bringing them down, I have something you need to see." Attached was a folder. Inside, screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages. Audio clips. A calendar entry labeled "Wife's birthday. Cancel if Eric gets suspicious." Another one, "Her husband works late Thursdays." Photos of my wife in Lauren's house. Sitting at their kitchen table. Wearing a sweater I'd given her for our anniversary. In their bed. Shed smiled in those photos like she was posing for an ad campaign. Relaxed. Confident. Unbothered. The kind of woman who believed she could walk into someone else's life, pretend it was hers, and leave without cleaning the blood off her shoes. And then Lauren sent me something that changed everything. A voice memo. She said she found it on her husband's phone. He'd forgotten to delete it, or maybe he didn't think he had to. In the recording, my wife was laughing. A deep, giddy laugh. Then her voice. "It's almost too easy. He still makes me coffee in the morning. I think he's grateful when I come home late. Like I'm doing him a favor." Then silence. Then him. "Let's just keep milking this while we can. They're both too soft to actually do anything." Click. That recording destroyed whatever numbness I had left. It burned through the last of it. I sat in the dark, holding my phone like it was made of fire, and listened to it again, and again, until I could recite their words by heart. Too soft? I started drafting the next post before I even finished the coffee that morning. Too soft to break? I posted it anonymously, like always. I embedded the audio, disguised through layers, but clear enough to recognize their voices. I added transcripts. I added timeline references. I didn't use names, but I didn't have to anymore. The internet isn't dumb. They had theories. Some of them accurate. One Redditor posted a blurred image of my wife from one of her own Instagram reels and matched it to a reflection in a video on the blog. The comments section exploded. The illusion cracked. 2 days later, she showed up at the house completely unannounced. No warning. No call. Just the jangle of her keys in the lock like she still owned the place. She looked tired, stripped of all her polish. Still in business casual, but her face had none of the smug distance she used to carry. There was panic in her eyes now. Raw and twitching. She didn't say hello. Just stepped into the living room and threw her phone on the table. "I'm being harassed. People are messaging me. Someone found out where I work. Are you behind this?" I didn't say anything. She stormed forward. "Answer me, Eric." I met her eyes. "You said I was too soft. I'm just living up to your expectations." That landed. Hard. She recoiled like she'd been slapped, then tried to recover. "Do you think this makes you better than me? Posting cryptic blogs? Letting strangers humiliate me? Is that your idea of justice?" "Truth," I said. "Justice is what happens when the system works. You burned that bridge. Now you're just getting exposure." She laughed sharp, bitter. "You really think people care? The internet moves on in a week. You'll be some sad husband meme and I'll bounce back. I stepped closer, looked her dead in the eyes. You won't. Not from this. Because every lie you've told is archived now. Forever. You don't get to reset this time. She stood there, seething, her lip trembling like she wanted to scream but didn't know what sound would come out. Then she whispered something that caught me off guard. I didn't think you had it in you. And I whispered right back. I didn't either. She left without another word. And this time, I locked the door behind her. Not because I was afraid she'd come back. Because I knew she would. And the next time she did, she wouldn't be alone. She came back 2 days later. But this time she didn't knock. Didn't use her key. Didn't even step onto the porch. She stood on the sidewalk with 2 people flanking her. One older man in a suit, briefcase in hand, and a younger woman scribbling something on a clipboard like she was documenting wildlife. Both of them looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. I opened the door before she could pretend she wasn't there. She didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't shout. Just stood there, all stiff posture and artificial calm. I'm here with legal counsel, she called out. Like this was a courtroom and not my front lawn. We need to discuss a few things. I leaned against the doorframe. No expression. No greeting. You could have emailed. The man stepped forward, voice oily. Mr. Callahan, we're here to initiate a discussion regarding shared property, joint assets, and digital defamation. I blinked. Digital defamation? Yes, the blog. The man continued, as if this were some routine matter. We have reason to believe you're the author of the content currently damaging Ms. S. professional reputation. She's lost clients, partnerships. Her company is considering termination. These are serious consequences. I shrugged. She committed serious acts. We're prepared to offer terms, he said, ignoring me completely. A clean division. Silence in exchange for settlement. You both walk away intact. I looked at her then. She was trying to look brave. Trying to pretend this was a negotiation. Not a plea for mercy wrapped in paperwork. She wanted out. Quietly. Neatly. Like she could wipe it all down and pretend none of it ever stained her perfect little story. I stepped off the porch and walked right up to the lawyer. Here's the problem, I said quietly. You think I care about clean. You think I want closure. I don't. I want documentation. I want every person she lied to, every person she manipulated, to know she did it. And I want it on record. His jaw tightened. This path won't end well for either of you. I looked him in the eye. You're only here because she knows it's already ending badly for her. I turned to her. She wouldn't look at me. You want terms? I said. Fine. Here's mine. Full confession, written and signed. Every name, every date. You admit to it all. You tell the truth for once in your life, and maybe, I'll consider taking the blog down. The lawyer's voice rose. Absolutely not. Then we're done here, I said and turned around. I was halfway up the porch steps when she finally snapped. You want me to humiliate myself? You want me to bleed for your little audience of internet sad boys? I stopped, slowly turned back. You already bled, I said. You just did it behind closed doors and handed me the knife. The lawyer tried to recover, but the silence around her was heavier now. She was cracking. She couldn't fake indifference anymore. And I knew it by the flicker of fear in her eyes, that the blog wasn't just exposing her lies. It was turning her into a story. And stories? Stories live forever. That night, Lauren sent me something else. A recorded call. Her husband. My wife. Planning a weekend away just 3 weeks before all this started. They were laughing about how they'd explained their absences. About how Eric still thinks I'm going to a networking retreat. About how Lauren always blames her migraines. I uploaded that call. I titled the post, They Had a System. The next morning, the blog doubled in traffic. Screenshots of the call hit social media. Someone finally put names together, blurred faces weren't blurred enough. Comments turned into theories. Theories turned into recognition. The internet figured it out. Her phone lit up like a burning fuse. My inbox flooded with media requests. Podcast hosts. Relationship columnists. True crime enthusiasts. And then the first article dropped. Not mine. Someone else. Title: The Wife, the Blog, and the Husband Who Broke the Silence. Her face was cropped from an old Instagram post. Not named, but unmistakable. She called me that night. Sobbing. Begging. I didn't answer. I just watched as everything she built crumbled. By the time her voicemail hit the 30-second mark, the begging turned into bargaining. I know I made mistakes, but we can talk about this. Please. You don't have to keep going. I played it twice. Not because I needed to hear the words again, but because I wanted to listen to the shift in her tone. The desperation that replaced arrogance. The plea that wasn't rooted in guilt or regret, but fear. Not of what she did, but of who I'd become since she did it. She wasn't afraid I'd hurt her. She was afraid I'd let the truth do it. And she was right to be afraid. The blog had become something bigger than either of us. I wasn't in control of it anymore. People had started posting their own experiences in the comments. Stories about lies, gaslighting, betrayals that sounded all too familiar. Her name wasn't mentioned in the posts I wrote, but users were starting to compare timelines, photos, social media cross-refs. And once people on the internet put 2 and 2 together, they don't stop at 4. They build blueprints, family trees, war maps. I didn't even have to post the confession anymore. The crowd was doing it for me, so I pivoted. I posted a new entry, not about her, but about me. The day I became someone else, it wasn't a revenge post. It wasn't cruel or righteous. It was raw. I wrote about sitting in the car outside her job, watching her laugh with him like I was the background character in my own life. About how small I felt when I realized she never once looked back. I wrote about how love doesn't die like in the movies, it rots. Quietly, beneath the surface. Until one day you open your mouth to say something kind and all that comes out is dust. I ended the post with one question. What would you do if the person you trusted most turned your life into fiction? By midnight, it had 600,000 views. The next morning, she showed up again. No lawyers this time. No heels. No makeup. Just her hair tied back, wearing a hoodie she once stole from me, pretending for a few more minutes that we were still the people we used to be. I opened the door and let her stand there, waiting. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't speak. I know that doesn't fix anything. I don't even know who I was when I did it. I kept lying because stopping meant facing it all. Facing you. Still, I said nothing. She stepped closer. I read the blog. I read what you wrote. I didn't know you were carrying all that. You didn't want to know, I said. She nodded. I know. And I deserve what's happening. I do. But please, can you stop now? Please. I'm losing everything. And there it was again. Not sorry for what she did. Sorry she got caught. I looked her in the eye. Not with hatred. Not even with anger anymore. Just clarity. You burned down my world in the one place I felt safest, I said. And now you want me to put out the fire you lit. But the thing about fires? They spread. And once they do, they don't ask permission. She started crying. For real this time. But I couldn't feel anything. Her pain didn't move me. It felt like watching someone audition for a role that no longer existed. Then she asked me something I didn't expect. Are you going to tell my parents? I shook my head. They'll find out. I don't have to say a word. She looked like she might collapse. But I stepped aside, opened the door, and said the only thing that still mattered. You need to go. She walked out without a word. And that was the last time I saw her face in person. But the echoes? They were just getting louder. Revenge doesn't feel like you think it will. It doesn't feel like fireworks, or a final boss fight, or some victorious music swelling as you walk away from the flames. It's quieter, colder, like stepping out into fresh air after being trapped in a smoke-filled room. You don't cheer, you just breathe deeper, sharper. That's how it felt when she left for the last time. The blog kept growing. Strangers kept reading. New stories poured in. Some wrote to say thank you. Others confessed they were the ones doing the damage and didn't know why until they saw themselves in her. A few messaged me just to say, me too. I stopped posting after that 10th entry. It was never meant to be a brand. It was a purge, a map of my survival, a body count of the lies I buried before they buried me. I didn't need to burn down the rest of her life. She was doing that just fine on her own. 3 weeks after she vanished, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the counter for days like a live wire. I'd already read everything she could have said in my head 1,000 times over. When I finally opened it, it wasn't long. She wrote, "You were never the fool. I didn't cheat because you weren't enough. I cheated because I thought I deserved more." And then I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't even know what more meant. "I hope someday you'll forgive me. Not for me, but for you. Because hate is just another kind of leash. And I already kept you in chains long enough." I didn't cry. I didn't reply. I folded the letter and shoved it in the back of a drawer filled with receipts and expired coupons, where old things that no longer hold value belong. Lauren filed for divorce. Her story came out in pieces. More women messaged me with names, places, screenshots of similar patterns. The guy, the smug little suit from my hallway, went dark. Deleted socials. Ghosted his job. Maybe he's in another city now, doing the same thing, only worse. But he's not my problem anymore. She isn't either. I moved out of the house. Sold it. Too many ghosts in the drywall. I bought a small condo near the coast. Quiet. No echoes. Just the sound of real wind, real waves, real silence. I don't look over my shoulder anymore. I don't scroll through her accounts. She doesn't exist in my feed or my mind. And yet, I still get emails from readers. One last message stuck with me. "What you did wasn't about revenge. It was about making the truth louder than the lies." Yeah. Maybe that's what it really was. People ask if I'd ever trust again. If I'd love again. The answer's complicated. But I know this. Forgiveness isn't something you owe. It's something you choose. And sometimes the most powerful choice you can make is to never offer it. I didn't get revenge. I got freedom. And for the first time in a long, long time, I finally feel clean.